Welcome back to another YouTube Human Design reading. Today, we are diving into a 5-1 emotional manifesting generators chart. And this is a really juicy one because we get to talk about how your business, body, and bank accounts are all connected. And if I was really cool, I'd be able to create an amazing wrap, but I'm not. So let's just dive into the intake form and go from there. Grace would like to know how she can have some guidance on building her business in alignment with her human design. I'm also about to become a mama, so would love to know how to best nurture myself, to nurture my baby, food, health, etc. And I'd love for you to touch on purpose, but I appreciate that I'm asking a lot. So that's the least of my concerns. Okay, right. So firstly, it is all connected. This is why I always say your business, your body, and your bank accounts are all one thing. But we like to look at it in isolation. Why do I say it's all one thing? Well, your mind, specifically looking at this chart, is here to receive many different ideas. It is through the vessel of your body. And of course, if your body is a clear vessel in terms of it's the healthiest, it's the most physical vitality, you've got a lot of energy, and you trust your body, then it's going to be really easy for you to make decisions. And when you make the right decisions for you and you know how to work with your mechanics, you're going to be able to build a business very easily because you'll be able to use your emotions as your guiding force. So this is why your business, your body, and your bank accounts are all connected. And it is a little bit multi-layered as well. And this is where we'll touch on purpose. With human design and gene keys, the thing that I've really learned is that in order to live a prosperous life, you first have to feel deeply fulfilled. Because when you feel deeply satisfied about the work that you get to do, that's going to feel deeply fulfilling. And essentially, part of your life's work is that you are here to use your imagination to bring about different solutions to the problems that you see straight in front of you. We'll get more into that. But when you feel deeply fulfilled by the purpose that you are here to live out, that's when you'll be able to tap into your heart space energy, which is the giving and receiving energy. And with anything that we're building in life, there has to be some sort of inspired action taken toward the manifestation that you're creating. And in this case, it would be a business. And that's when you also have to step into the receiving energy to receive the abundance flow. So that's where that heart space is so important. And this is where we look at your relationships and you heal things and you shift the traumas and you step into your vocation. And through that's when, like, when you're feeling deeply fulfilled, you have your heart space cracked open to have that beautiful flow of giving and receiving energy. That's when you can step into prosperity and receive the abundance, the blessings, the resources that you require for the work that you want to do in this lifetime. So this is why it is all interlinked. I want to start with helping you understand what it means to be an emotional manifesting generator, because a lot of the time we skip over that. Honestly, if you're not living in accordance to these principles, it doesn't matter how in depth you go. This is going to be the crux of it all. You have the channel of transitoriness, which means that you have an incredibly intense emotional wave. You have very high highs and low lows, and that's where we will start this journey. I want you to deeply start to understand your emotions, and you will have had clarity before with your chart configuration. You're going to have so many different ideas right now for business. You're going to have different facets of business that you want to start. You're going to have all of these different things and you're going to get really excited about them. And what happens with the Mani-Gen is that you say yes when you actually shouldn't have too quickly. And then you end up in situations where you're not completing your projects. And that's actually what makes a Mani-Gen feel frustrated, because you'll start to feel disenchanted with life when you're jumping from thing to thing to thing, not having anything stick. But then you get told that you're multi-passionate. So then you feel like you've got a permission slip, but there's still that part of you that's disenchanted. So you're kind of figuring out, like, but then why am I feeling frustrated if I know I'm meant to pivot? It's because you're not necessarily meant to pivot in the moments of frustration. And I'm going to go through this. It's that you need to make better decisions from the outset by using a body-based intelligence. So for you, understanding your emotional wave and understanding that you'll have high highs and low lows means that you have to allow your self space and time to make decisions. And this is also again multi-layered, where I'm going to bring your profile line into this, because being a 5 line means that people view you as the hero. They view you as the person that can fix all their problems, and they really feel inspired and activated when they're in your presence. And then when they leave your presence, they don't have that same feeling about you. And if you haven't communicated what you expect of them and what they can expect of you, and now all of a sudden they've built up in their mind what they think you're going to provide for them in any way, in a relationship, in business, in anything, what's going to happen is that their illusion of you is going to shatter. And when it shatters, they either ghost you or they just lash out at you, and you're like, I don't understand where this is coming from. And it's because those boundaries need to be put in place from the beginning. And that's something that a lot of Mani-Gens will struggle with, because at some point in their life, they've had to dim their power through that throat center, being connected to a motorized center. And so speaking up your truth, speaking up your boundaries can be something that could be quite challenging. And you're going to really need to hone the skill, because when somebody asks you about something, you need to allow yourself space. Let's look at this in a tangible way. Maybe somebody invites you to go and speak at a seminar, and you're going to be able to promote your business, and it sounds really exciting, and you say yes in the moment because it's all exciting. And then a few days later, you're like, oh my word, but I've got this on at that time, and I've got all of these different projects that I need to get out, and I've completely overcommitted, but now I've said yes and I have to pull through. And because you're not going to fully be in that energy, it's not going to necessarily be the right thing for you in that moment. And so, you might find that you've said yes more often than not when you actually wanted to say no. And a beautiful way to handle a conversation like that would be saying, thank you so much. This is so exciting. I really would love to do this. Can I get back to you by X date so that I can just have time to make sure that it would align with my values and my calendar, or whatever it is that it needs to align with? And that way, you're creating beautiful space for yourself. You're honoring your 5th line energy. You're honoring your emotional authority. And when you have space to make decisions, that's when your strategy of getting to respond is really going to come through. So let's talk about how the universe gives Mani-Gens breadcrumbs, but breadcrumbs are not signs from the universe that you're on the right path. Breadcrumbs need to be viewed as pieces of information to help you tap into your body-based intelligence. So let's say you want to start a photography company, and now you're walking into your local coffee shop and you see a flyer in the wall for a photography course. How is your emotions feeling in that moment? Now, because you've got the channel of transitoriness, you have extremely high and low emotions. It's a very intense emotional wave. And just looking at everything collectively, you are going to have this insatiable desire to want to try new things and to bring about different ways. And you've got high individual circuitry. So you are going to feel really excited about things when they do come up, but I want you to have that space. And when you have that space, it looks like, oh, how am I feeling in this moment when I see that photography course, knowing that a photography company is something that I would like to have right now? And I want you to sit with that. And in sitting with that, you're going to start to find, does your body feel expansive towards that, or does it feel contractive? Then you're going to maybe see a Facebook ad for somebody's photography services, and maybe you get to see their prices, and that allows you, again, more information. It allows you to see what is potential for you, or what is possible for you. And in that moment, again, how do you feel about it? Are you feeling contracted? Are you feeling expanded? And I want you to keep going at this. Generally, rule of thumb is let something come up for you 3 times in its own different ways for you to feel into that emotional authority. And that's what's going to help you gain the clarity. Now, when that clarity comes, there is no changing your mind. It's such a clear, calm feeling. And so there is no emotional charge. There is no, oh my God, this is so exciting, I'm definitely saying yes. Or, I'm going to say no because it's like, I just couldn't be bothered right now. You allow that emotional wave its time to ride out to clarity. Now, you've got the sacral as a secondary authority. And although you don't make decisions from your sacral, it does give you a secondary power to help you in making decisions. And this is where I want to start talking about health, because a lot of the time, Mani-Gens have suppressed their sacral response, and this can be done in a numerous amount of different ways. If you've ever heard please make sure you finish your food because there's starving children in Africa. You will have learned how to, from a very young age, override your natural hunger and full cues. And as a Mani-Gen, you are a type that does have that information available to you. It doesn't come naturally to other people, but for you, it does. And so I want you to start tuning back into your body-based intelligence, because just intuitively, I feel that there might be a disconnect. And I know that, having had 2 pregnancies myself, that when you have baby growing inside of you, you can feel disconnected from your body, and your body is doing so many incredible things right now. It's like growing an ear and a strand of hair, and it's just incredible what your body's doing. But sometimes you might feel very disconnected from your body, and so you might feel that you've lost your gut feelings and your intuition. And if that is the case, I want you to try and go back to really starting to understand when you're hungry versus when you're full. The sacral is also a very yes, no, either or response. And so tasting out different things with your sacral response is also going to be very helpful. Which food should you eat in the mornings? Which gym class should you take, by asking it Pilates or yoga, pears or apples, oats or all bran? Things like that really help the Mani-Gen make those decisions, because it's that body then starting to fire up. And the more you can trust that gut response, the more you'll also be able to trust your emotions. And the more you trust yourself, the better the decisions you will make. And then you won't be the Mani-Gen jumping from project to project, not fully seeing something through. And that is a part of your design. You're not going to necessarily know how the end result will come about, because you're going to have all these incredible ideas. And that's a channel of transitoriness, where you're craving new experiences, but then there's also going to be moments where you feel like you're just sitting in darkness, and that's the chaos. And when the chaos arises, know that that's when the clarity is about to hit as well. But there's first this moment where you feel like you're being drawn back. And how I always like to see this in my mind is, you might be an arrow being drawn back by the archer, and there's this moment of pause. And in that moment of pause, that pause is actually helping the archer hit the target in the most accurate way. So the longer the pause, the more accurate the arrow will seek the target. And that pullback can feel very frustrating for a Mani-Gen. It's not that frustration that you're doing something wrong or you're on the wrong path. It's the frustration of, I want to get going and I feel this itchy feeling to like move forward, but I feel held back right now and I don't know how to catapult forward. Maybe it's time to just realize that you're gaining the energy that's required to have that moment where you catapult forward and you hit the target in the most accurate way, depending on how long the pause is. But it's not necessarily length of time, it's how accurate is that length of pause. Are you, okay, I'm pulling the arrow back, I'm trying to shoot the target, it's not very mindful? Or are you, in this moment, I know that I feel like I'm being pulled, there's so much tension, how can I lean into it, adjust to it, feel into it, so that I can aim at the target directly? I want to talk more about frustration, because when you feel frustrated as a Mani-Gen, that's when you're not self-themed. But there's a difference between temporary frustration versus long-term frustration. So you will know when you're not on the right path, when you have frustration in terms of, it's like this, I just feel like my energy is being drained, I feel frustrated, I feel like I'm jumping from project to project, there's nothing that's landing, and it's this frustration over a longer period of time. Now, we all are designed to experience struggle and challenge in order to grow through it. We need that resistance to grow and evolve. It's when we get stuck in this struggle that's when suffering occurs. And we're not meant to suffer, but we are meant to have challenge. We are meant to have struggle. And a lot of the time, Mani-Gens will give up before they've even started, or before they hit, just before they hit gold, because they'll feel the sense of frustration. And it's actually the good frustration that needs to be moved through. So good frustration is the frustration that you'll feel at the beginning of a project. And so many people are looking for motivation and finding that like sense of, oh, I'll just feel when it feels good, that's when I'm going to start the business. But that feeling is only going to come from doing the things that you don't want to do. And that's the irony of the situation. And it's kind of like going for a run. I know that I never feel like running. But if you ask me how I feel at the end of a run, I'm like, let's go, that was the best 5 kilometers ever. And that's exactly what business might feel like right now, is that you feel frustrated by the task that's just in front of you. I don't want you to see things at the beginning of the journey. I want you to assess how you're going to feel at the end of everything. And this is how a manifesting generator will really tap into their superpowers, is when they use visualization to assess how they will feel at the end of completing a task, at the end of doing something. And this is going to be really beneficial for you with the emotional wave as well, because you'll get to go through a visualization process. So let's just say, for example, you're wanting to start a health company, and I have a feeling it's something to do with that. You're going to see yourself having clients sign up, checking in with them, going through the whole journey, seeing all the admin. I want you to visualize in that greater that greater detail. And if at some point you feel bored or you've lost track with your visualization, then maybe it's not the right project for you. If you end up feeling frustration at like, oh, this is just actually not for me, it feels like an energy drain, then it's not the right thing for you. But if you get to the end and you're like, I still feel satisfied, I feel really I feel really fired to go, then it is the right project for you. And then there are going to be moments of temporary frustration. Those temporary moments of frustration is not that you're on the wrong path, it's that you're growing and you're building resilience. So always just be mindful that there's temporary frustration and then there is long-term frustration. The concept I always like to talk about when it comes to this is doing the laundry. I hate doing laundry. And that can bring about a lot of temporary frustration. But having a beautiful, clean home with my clothes all packed away neatly, that brings me a lot of satisfaction. And it's to find a way to make laundry enjoyable. So I'm really into fantasy books at the moment. I have linked that time that I would spend on laundry with the time that I will be able to listen to audiobooks. And because I enjoy it so much, I've now found a way to make laundry satisfying. And that's something that I want you to think about doing when it comes to your business and just life in general. How can you make the moments of temporary frustration of doing the admin tasks that we don't always love to do, how can you make that exciting? Because that's how a manifesting generator will be able to move through things and digest the information, digest food. Which brings me to my next point. How are you here to eat and to exercise and the health part of everything? Being a manifesting generator, you are the concord of all of the different types. And a concord can get from point A to point B in the fastest amount of time. The reason why the Concorde doesn't run anymore is because of its fuel consumption. And you are very similar in that you have such a big engine to fuel that you will be able to probably have more food than other people around you, unless they're manifesting generators, and digest that quite well. Now, I want to caveat with what I'm about to say about your heart determination with, I'm always a little bit wary when I see somebody's birth time as 6 a.m. on the dot, because the variables will change minute by minute. So if the following information doesn't resonate with you, I would, pull different birth times. And this is something that I also do, but essentially pull different minutes at different times of the day to see what determination you would really fall into. As it stands, you have heart determination, and that means that your body runs colder than the average body. And so you need to warm it up so that it can digest both food and information. And this is also going to be very linked to hydration. So you will, if you find that you are somebody that has like right now, I've got heart determination. I've got water on my desk, I've got tea on my desk to help heat my body up to digest information. And I'm never without a drink. And if that is you as well, then the way that you ingest food is making sure that it's cooked so that it's had a process where it's broken down and the nutrients and ingredients are easier to digest. And it's really about warming your body up, because your metabolism, again, will run colder. So it's about how can I heat my body up from the inside to help break down my food. Then going back into that feeling of satisfaction, this needs to come through with your food and exercise too. A Mani-Gen needs to feel really satisfied about what they're doing, and they hate doing the same thing every single day. They hate being told what to do. So when it comes to eating, I want you to get really excited about the foods that you have. And Mani-Gen should never buy like a 2 kg box of cereal, because they'll probably get bored of it after the 5th day and then be like, I don't like all bran anymore. And that can be like something that could be a little bit confusing. And maybe, again, this is how you lost trust with your body growing up, because one week you'd be all about banana milkshakes, and then your parents would have taken you out for banana milkshakes, and then you're like, I hate banana milkshakes, I'm only into chocolate right now. And they would have been like, but last week you loved it. And they not to blame our parents, they always did their best with the resources that they had available. They didn't have this information, but they could have maybe said to you, but no, you have to have the banana milkshake now because it's what you love. And again, you lose trust with your body in little ways like that. So when it comes to eating, because you like variation, because you don't like doing the same thing every day. I like to say to many gens to have 3 different breakfast options that you can cycle through and then change these up over time. But in the morning, you then get to make a decision on, what makes me feel really excited to eat in this moment? Would it be avo toast? Would it be all bran? Or would it be oats? And then you can have some sort of flexible structure, because otherwise it becomes really hard to navigate grocery shopping and just like general life admin. The same is true for exercise. Maybe right now you're doing prenatal yoga or prenatal Pilates and you want to do that, but you also want to mix it in with strength training. How can you, again, on a day, ask yourself, am I really feeling like this today, or would I like to do something else? Now remember, never think of the exercise at the beginning of the exercise. Always think about how you will feel once the exercise is complete, in order to feel into, am I feeling temporary frustration or am I feeling long-term frustration? Another really cool thing that you have in your chart is a completely open spleen. This is where your immunity, your intuition, your fears lie. And because it's completely open, you are designed to bring in people's immunities and intuitions and fears. And so sometimes you'll feel really anxious or fearful about something and you won't understand why. It might not be yours, it might be somebody else's in a room that you're with. But how I've used this in raising my kids has been really interesting. Obviously, in the first year, your baby cannot communicate with what is wrong with them. And for a lot of moms, this can feel really frustrating. But because you've got the open spleen, I have it as well. I'm able to really just sit and tune into that spleen. It takes practice. And when you tune into your spleen, you can start to connect with what your baby is going through because it's open. So you're bringing in that energy and you'll have that mother's intuition of, it's tea. It's cold. They need a nappy change. It's this. And it's amazing because when you go and you do those things that you like intuitively just feel, all of a sudden they become their happy selves again. So use that to your advantage. In saying that, you do also have a sensitive immune system. Now, I don't love the word sensitive, and for you, this is actually amplified because you've also got gate 19. So for you, you are sensitive to the world around you. You're probably even sensitive to textures. Make sure that the jammies that you pack for the hospital are really comfy clothes, or if you're having a home birth, make sure that the textures that you're surrounding yourself with for birth are really cozy and comfortable, and textures that resonate with you. A lot of people with gate 19 are texture people, and that goes into food you eat as well. If there are textures that you don't like in foods, it's part of your design. But really make sure that you're cozy and you're comfortable. But with having the open spleen, also know that because you've got a sensitive immune system, homeopathy would work for you. And how I like to describe it is that my sensitive immune system, some people need a cocktail of medication to cure a migraine. I can take paracetamol and will eventually have the same results as taking a cocktail. Like a cocktail would actually just knock me out completely. So that's what I mean by having a sensitive immune system. I'm going back to business for a second because having an open spleen center has just triggered another thought in my mind. But I want to go through in business what you'd be able to really guide and lead people through. So like I've spoken about, because you've got an open spleen center, you're bringing in other people's immunities, other people's intuitions, and you're able to amplify that and feel into whether it's yours or not. And when it comes to business, through your openness, you're also able to guide and lead people because you're gaining wisdom through those centers. You don't have consistent access to those things. And so where you're able to really guide and lead people in whichever business you are taking on is through ideas. You're here to be a very big picture thinker. You're here to really open your mind up to different ways of thinking. You're here to view different belief systems, opinions. And so sometimes people might view you as being flaky and changing your mind, but you're also here to guide people on what their belief systems are for themselves, what they believe in, where they're going, what their purpose is, what their values are, how they're here to work with the financial plane, the material plane, anything that's linked to value, like how much value is that? Anything to do with health. Anything to do with health is also very much a part of where you're here to guide and lead people. And then things that you can teach on. So there's a difference between guiding and coaching versus teaching. Teaching energy versus guiding and leading is I don't have all the answers figured out, but this is where having all these different experiences has led me to. Teaching is I've got a degree in this subject and this is what I'm here to be able to teach you on. So the things that you get to teach people on is anything around communication, expression, authentic expression, emotions, And emotions can also be linked to things to do with anxiety or depression, life force energy, creativity, things like that, and stress, how to manage stress. So that's just a little bit around what you could be doing in your business. With your business, you are going to be the person that brings about new solutions and fixes problems. I don't like the word fix, but for human design, that's a word that is very intertwined in the human design language. But you are here to fix people's problems by assessing what is currently happening in your environment, and you are going to sometimes be confused by what gets shown to you. But confusion is you are trying to figure out patterns of how things are happening. You're trying to break things down in a way that it makes sense for you. And so through confusion, you will find the imagination, because when you're confused, you're going to think about different ways of fixing a problem that is in front of you. And that's going to be a prevalent purpose in your business, about fixing problems that you're seeing. And it's also going to be done in a way where it hasn't been done before. And this is where the last thing I really want to hone in on is that you are going to have to learn how to trust your own authentic expression. And this is the hardest thing to do, especially if you are building a personal brand. And a personal brand doesn't mean that you're being an influencer. A personal brand just means that you have heart and soul in your business. Authentic expression is challenging for a Mani-Gen to tap into, because they've often been told that they are too much for the world. People around you have probably tried to dim your light. They've tried to hold you back. They've tried to do, all of these different things. And that can make you lose touch with how you are here to authentically express yourself in the world. That is going to be the biggest liberation that you will experience when you know how to tap into that authentic expression. And the reason why is because with your high individual circuitry, with your channel of transitoriness, with your channel of mutation, you are here to create the recipe for where you're going. And you're here to bring new things into the world that haven't existed before. And that's always hard, because you need to be brave and you need to trust in the vision that you're seeing. You're going to also want to do a lot of research on it, and there will be a point where you have to take the leap, because that one line energy is going to come up and try and hold you back by saying you don't know enough, you need more information, who are you to do this? Those are some of the shadows that I see holding you back. You're going to really question, are you of enough value? Do you really, and then you've got the fears that will come up with all of that. There will be a point where you have to trust that you do know enough, and you will have to take action. And being an entrepreneur is about taking messy action always. But for you, it is about leaping, and you will be somebody that is naturally talented and you will leap. But there's also, it's like this push-pull energy. It's this duality, right? Because there are parts of you that just crave that next experience. You have this insatiable urge to do something new, to experience something different. And you're very naturally talented, which means you just dive into things. And then also you are going to have that one line energy that might creep up and be like, but we need more information. And I'm really scared about where we're going. And who am I to be doing this? And when those fears come up, just know that they're just fears, and we get to change and adjust the stories that we tell ourselves. So that's what I see happening in terms of a business sense in your chart. To recap, because I know that was a lot of information. You are here to really follow your bliss, follow your joy. You're going to be guided by wanting new experiences. And sometimes you're going to have so much chaos that it feels like a really dark time, because the chaos might feel all consuming. But it's to lean into those moments of chaos, knowing that the clarity will come. And in those moments of chaos, there will be a lot of confusion. But through using your imagination on how you can have many different possibilities available to you in those moments of chaos, that's when you'll find your purpose. And when you feel deeply fulfilled in your purpose, you're also going to see more breadcrumbs becoming available. And that's when you're working with your emotional authority of waiting for that clarity to come through, understanding that emotional wave, and even keep a journal. How long does it take you on average to make a short-term decision, which could be, where do you want to eat on Friday night? Or what would you like to wear to a wedding or an occasion? And versus maybe a bigger decision, which would be what job should you take next? I know that you're obviously wanting to start a business, but that would be a bigger term decision. So how long does it take you on average to make those decisions? Think about times in the past where you've also had different decisions to make, and think about like, how long did it take me to make those decisions? And that's when you start to see how your emotional wave plays out for you. And if you can hone in on that, understand the difference between temporary frustration versus long-term frustration, use your mind to visualize from start to finish everything that you're wanting to do, then you're going to find that you take on the right projects. You're not saying yes or no in an emotional high or low of your wave, and you're able to then put in place beautiful, healthy boundaries by communicating with others what you expect of them and what they can expect of you. And that is how you're going to move more into trust with your body, getting really satisfied about the things that you're doing and eating and nourishing yourself. And this is how it all works together. So I hope that this has been super illuminating for you. I will see you in the next human design YouTube chart reading that I have. If you would like yours too, make sure to click on the links down below. The next reading I have is a 5-1 projector who is suffering with rheumatoid arthritis, and we're going to look into exactly why.